Hello, everyone, and welcome to the Wealthy Wellbeing Podcast, where we discuss all things health, fitness, real estate, and entrepreneurship. Today, I have a very special guest, friend of mine. We met about a year ago, but he is out of Minnesota. His name is Luke Nietfeld. I think I said that right. So, Luke, welcome to the podcast. I appreciate you coming on today.
Yeah, thank you, Zach. This is awesome. We met about a year ago. We had very similar paths of engineering, fitness gurus, like entrepreneurial mindset, real estate, just different states.
Yeah. Yeah, we met through, I think, Jesse Stanton's Growth Co. community or one of the lives we were on. I think I'd kind of like you said, I'd seen that we had similar interests, and so we started messaging, texting. We met in person at Squad Up a couple months ago, which is always nice meeting somebody in person and being able to talk to them face to face as opposed to rather through Zoom or even just text message. So it's always nice that way.
Yeah, 100%. I mean, it's huge just getting around people that are doing the same thing as you, similar mindsets and for growth, right?
Yeah. So you mentioned real estate, engineering, all that stuff. So why don't you give everybody a little background on who you are, kind of your journey from growing up and to where you are today?
Yeah, for sure. Yeah. So, I mean, I grew up here in Minnesota, and then I went to college for mechanical engineering. Um, I wanted to go for like exercise science and stuff. I wanted to be like a personal trainer and stuff, but I was told I wouldn't make any money. So I dropped that. I was like, fine, I'll just go get this engineering degree, and maybe I'll make some money, which I did, right? You make pretty good money as an engineer. Um, Specifically in the med device field here in Minnesota, it's a good career. So I went through college, did that. Real estate kind of popped into my head. Kind of living in our house that was a rental, right? It was owned by a landlord. Like we'd come by every now and then, and I was just thinking, so like, you just own houses, like, and that's all you do. I was like, just gotta buy houses and just have people pay you money and like pay like debt pay down and all that,
Mm-hmm.
And we were probably the best tenants ever because we were like guys that like we fixed up the whole yard for them, we fixed up the whole basement, like we did all this work for them. And it's like, oh, cool. And so like that's kind of like, well, in real estate kind of entered my brain, right, in college. And my thought was like, oh, I'm going to be an engineer, I'll make enough money just to buy a bunch of houses. And so like, I mean, kind of fast forward from that aspect, like started working as an engineer, and bought my primary home in like 2019, roughly 5 years ago now. And then I had a good amount saved up, and I wanted to buy a threeplex or a fourplex, in which I had enough money to do that. I wanted to do the whole like cash out refi thing, the BRRRR strategy, right? And I was like searching around, found a pretty good property that was it was 4 units, brought to me by a realtor. And he was explaining like, oh yeah, I got this under contract. I'm looking to sign this contract. Like, is this a deal that you may be interested in? I know you're super brand new, but like take a look. And this is kind of what like a deal looks like. And so we were walking out, just asking like, so like, what are you going to do? He's like, oh, I'm going to sign this contract to make an assignment fee. I was like, what's that? like, so basically he broke down wholesaling from A to Z. I was like, cool, I got to learn more about this. And I had paid for other courses in the past for like BRRRR strategy and stuff like that. But once I learned more about like flipping houses and like wholesaling, I'm like, this seems a lot more interesting.
Mm-hmm.
And just from the way my mind operates, because it's an operational system, right? And so that got me into finding like Pace Morby, right, and Jamil Damji. And so joined their mentorships, and now they're my mentors, right? And so using like their business models to build out my own business that way. And also like guys like Jesse, our mutual friend Jesse, who was probably the first person I kind of met in real estate, because he was talking about, yeah, subject to creative financing, buying houses for a cup of coffee, all that, and but what we really clicked on, and maybe you did too, was like the mindset part of like the real estate business and the investing side, because that part is just like numbers and stuff. Like that's easy to figure out. It's the
Mm-hmm.
getting over the ups and downs and the hurdles and like oh man, is this really for me? Am I really gonna be able to do this? Like, am I ever going to close a deal? Right. Because I know, like, I don't know about you, but like my first year, I didn't get a deal my whole first year. Like once I decided to like go in, like go in, like, oh, I'm going to do this, set the intention of, okay, I'm going to do real estate. This is what I'm going to do. It took me over a year to do that, to close my first deal. It was a lot of just headbanging against the wall, right? And so when making sure your mindset is right for when you're down there to like, okay, keep going up and down, right? And then we talked a little bit before we were recording, but getting around people that have similar mindsets and goals and paths to keep you on track to achieve those goals, right? And so that is probably the biggest benefit in all of my whole business career. Like, I could talk about real estate and how to run numbers and how to find leads and all this, but it really doesn't matter unless you have the right mindset for it and the belief that this is what you are and you are going to achieve this business, right? And you will be successful. It's not overnight. Nothing's overnight, right? Like, I didn't wake up being able to bench 300 pounds, like it doesn't happen. So that being in those mentorship programs has really, it has accelerated my business, right? So that's kind of how I got into real estate, was just slowly kind of figuring out about it. And then eventually just made the decision to dive deeper because like I was good at engineering, like I was really good at it. I accelerated really fast in my career, right? Got capped out pretty quickly. And then I was like, I don't even really like this. Like, sitting in a cube all day. It's all kind of the same. So once you design one heart valve, all the heart valves are pretty similar. Like, you can only make a heart valve so many times. Same with like any kind of catheter. They all have some kind of braiding, some kind of P-backs on them. Like, there's different variations of stuff, but it's all very similar, and the process of making everything is pretty similar. They can think of some cool things every now and then, but it got old pretty quickly.
The monotony of that job versus real estate, where it's like no day or no hour is exactly the same.
No. That's the thing. Exactly. I mean, I would say daily tasks are kind of the same, right? Like, you got your comping time, so you're running comps on deals. You got your offer time. You got your outreach or lead generation time, right? Because I generate all my leads through agents. I did a little bit direct to seller stuff. I talked to some sellers. I'm like, this is terrible. Kudos to you agents for being able to like calm some of these sellers down and bring them to reality of their home price,
Yeah. So why don't you expand on kind of, I guess, that process for people who may not be familiar with, the real estate side of stuff. So, when you say direct to agent and wholesaling, like what is that process, or, give a high level overview of, wholesaling and I guess, generating your own leads.
Right. So wholesaling at a high level is you have a deal, and the number one problem for investing is finding good deals, right? Like Grant Cardone said at the Squad Up, he's like, dude, I have so much money, I can't park. There's no good deals. Like, that's the hardest part about real estate, is finding good deals, right? So if you can figure out how to lead gen and get good deals, then you can turn wholesaling into flipping, into buy and hold, into, that's actually, you can either flip something or you can hold it. There's not really another thing you can do. So what I do is two different avenues generating leads. One is the MLS, right? There's flip deals on the MLS all the time. A lot of them just get looked over, right? Because most people don't even call. They don't even call on them, right? So for us, if the home is at least 30 days on market, it goes into our pipeline. Granted that it's outdated. It has to be outdated and 30 days on market. And it goes into our pipeline, and we're going to call on that and just see what's going on. Like, we get what's called the 4 pillars: motivation, price, timeline, and condition. And then occupancy is like a fifth one I like to throw in there. Like, is it vacant? Is it owner occupied? Is it a rental or a tenant? So that goes into our pipeline, and then conversations, pretty easy to have with agents. I mean, it's kind of scary at first because like, oh man, are they going to chew me out? Because like I'm brand new, I've never done a deal before. No, like they won't, you know. And then you get to a point where every conversation is pretty similar when you're
Mm-hmm.
asking about properties. And so we had that conversation. We have an offer for them. Sometimes we give it, sometimes we don't. If we're like 100 grand off, we might let it sit for like a week or two and then follow up and be like, hey, how's it going? I mean, I know we kind of passed on this initially, but still on the market, still see that you're looking for a buyer. Like, this isn't what you want to hear, but we are here and we're ready to close. Here's our offer. You know, kind of soften the blow a little bit, you know. And sometimes they say no, sometimes they say yes, right? Like if they say no, sounds good. I mean, we'll keep track of it. We'll see when, where it closes, what price it closes at, who closed it, you know. And a lot of times, like I just had this happen. Like a deal was locked up too high. Like they had my offer
Mm-hmm.
and they took an offer that was 50K above it, right? And then a week later, they call me back. Hey, is your offer still on the table?
Yep.
I'm like, yeah, it is. What's going on? And like, well, this buyer is going to fall out of contract.
Mm-hmm.
And I was just wondering, like, well, what's going on? Like, what were they looking at this to do? What were they trying to do? I was like, oh, it was an investor that had an all cash offer trying to buy. I was like, okay,
Yeah.
got it. I know
Another
exactly what's going
Yep.
on.
Yep.
Wholesaler locked it up too high because they,
Yep.
you know, they didn't know how to run comps or rehab numbers or
Mm-hmm.
anything like that, you know. And so again, like, oh yeah, here's my offer, and we're good to go once it falls off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And it did. So we're working on that deal right now.
Nice. So you're in escrow, right? You got it under contract. You're going through title deed, finding a buyer, right, or disposition, right? Finding out how you're going to exit, right? In this case, you knew you were going to wholesale it, so you're finding a buyer in this case.
Yeah, exactly. Yep. And so we're pretty good at running numbers. So we know if we have a deal within a couple days, right? Like
Yeah.
if you get zero feedback within 48 hours, chances are it's not really a deal. I mean, keep looking, right?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But then you kind of know. And then if I cancel a contract, I never wait till the last day of IP.
Right.
This just comes because I know it's usually a day before, right?
Mm-hmm.
And usually I never cancel without having a number that I needed at. So like I have good buyers where I'm like, hey, we may have messed up on the comps here. What number do you need this at? And could you be locked in at and get
Mm-hmm.
non-refundable earnest money in this? And then
Mm-hmm.
I can go get it at that number for you and we can do this deal. Like I've done deals where I made $1,000, right? Because like a buyer felt he's like, oh yeah, I mean you can make something, you know.
Yeah.
But basically like we got this deal. It's like, okay, call the agent, like, hey, like we saw this, this, and this, didn't take into account like these repair items. Is gonna be a lot more than I thought. Or you can just be like, hey, I messed up the comps. Like I was using this as a comp, and then but I didn't see this over here, which may hurt us. Maybe there's new builds going up there that,
Yep.
and once you have a new build, like boom, like there's a hard price
Yep.
right there that you can't go over. And then you just be like, but and I really like this line. If we can get it at this number today, we can put in more EMD, waive the rest of the inspection period, and be good to go for closing.
Mm-hmm.
And usually, now you're going for a price reduction, so they might say no. But if they're cool with the price reduction, that extra earnest money and just ending IP really helps in getting that deal under contract. So that's one avenue. It's just the MLS. Another avenue is what is called agent outreach. And this is the method like Jamil Damji made famous, you know. So basically, I know every single realtor here in Minnesota. Well, I don't know them yet, but I have a list of them, you know, and then I'm going through that list and I like to cold call them, right?
Mm-hmm.
I know there's different ways to do it. Like there's text blasting to like just text them to set up a call or just text to text or calling and then texting. So I call them and then I send a text.
Mm-hmm.
And then I'm just like, hey, my name is Luke. I'm also licensed with JPW here. So I'm like, hey, this is Luke with JPW. How are you doing today? Blah, blah, blah. This is what I do. I'm a redeveloper here in the Minneapolis market. I got capital to deploy. My goal is to be a tool in your tool belt you use to close these deals that have tax liens, squatters, hoarders, fire damage, anything that is real distress, and any home that is original or needs a major repair condition.
Mhm.
That's just what I say, what I do, and then I ask if they have anything like that right now that's either on the MLS that I missed or that hasn't gone active yet. And I always say I really prefer the ones that haven't gone active yet because I'm very aggressive on those ones, and I can usually give a higher price,
Mhm.
which is 100% true because once it's on the MLS and it's price stamped,
Yep.
you can't go above it, right? And
Yeah.
so and they'll usually, I'd say 95% of the time, they're like, no, I don't have anything right now. No worries. You may not have anything right now at this second, but I'd love to stay in contact. If you do, close some deals with you, do some repeat business. Can I send you my contact info and reach out every now and then?
Mhm.
And usually, like, yeah, that's fine. Okay, boom, there. They go into a follow up. You follow up with them, and then eventually they're going to get off market deals. And they're like, hey, the seller wants nothing to do with this house. What can you do with it? And
Mhm.
that's agent outreach. So those are the two methods that we have running. And the nice thing about it is that we don't have to skip trace a list for like $5,000
Yep.
of sellers.
Yeah. And I like the agent outreach too. I did the direct seller method for a while too. The direct agent was a lot better. The conversations, like you said, it's just that same script over and over and over again, right? And
Yeah.
building the relationship and following up with them. So the conversations are typically a lot easier with
Mhm.
the agents, and especially if they're familiar with investors and all that stuff. And your ultimate goal is really to provide value to them by making an easy transaction for them, the
Yeah.
seller, and making it a win-win for everybody. So the conversations are a little easier, especially since the agent doesn't have a emotional attachment to the house. So there was times where I direct a seller and they were like, my family's had this house for 30 years. And even though it hasn't been updated since 1960,
Yeah.
they think it's worth 400,000 because they saw on Zillow their neighbor's house sold, right? But that one's all fixed
Right.
up and all that stuff. So it's hard to work through the sellers as opposed to the agents who are a little more, not necessarily friendly, but easier to talk to.
Yeah, absolutely. I ran into that. That was the biggest thing is it's always the eyes of the beholder, right?
Mm-hmm.
Even when a wholesaler has to do, like, no, I swear it's worth this. It's like, no, dude. It's like, here are all the comps. Here's the rehab level. Like, it's not just carpet and paint,
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing too. It's like, oh, I can fix this up myself for, my whole kitchen for $5,000. It's like, okay, like you should do that then, and then you should sell it.
Dude. Yeah, no, I don't even know if anyone can do it for $5,000
I
anymore.
know. Yeah, they're so delusional, especially the way the market's been, right? The last few years, everything's gone skyrocketing up. So it's like, well, I could just
Yeah,
sell it on the market. It's like, well, then you just should. And then, because they can sell it on the market if they really wanted to, like, no problem.
right. Yeah, and then there's a lot of houses where it takes a lot of work to get it even market ready. Like there's a
Hmm.
lot of like this one house, it was like a deer trail through all this crap. Like there's so much stuff in there. And you could tell where they were walking because it was like a foot long, no joke. And the stuff was like up to like your waist level throughout this house. So there's foot long gap to walk to each bedroom and the bathroom. I'm like, wow, this is rough. Right. So
Yeah.
situations like that where it's like, and like this guy, he inherited it, right?
Hmm.
An agent brought me this deal off market, and she's like, "Hey, this guy just wants to get rid of it." And I was like, "Sounds good." Walked it, got him an offer, boom, like done deal.
Hmm.
And they just got to move on and not deal with any trash out, no nothing, right? So we're gonna trash all the stuff out with a bunch of dumpsters. We have to do a lot of landscaping, like a ton of landscaping, and just to even like get it presentable, and then we can go into the house. So like we are going to spend like 30 grand without even touching the house. But but those are the situations that like me and my team excel at, right?
Hmm.
Is taking down those properties. And we paid the agent on that deal because the seller didn't want to pay the agent. So we gave the agent 10 grand,
Hmm.
which we bought the house for 150. And there's like, they're not going to make 10 grand on 150 house any other way.
Right.
Besides working with us. So the agent liked it as well. So
Right.
You meet really cool agents. Like we just have this liquor store right now that's off market that we have a buyer for. Like this, like I was calling this agent's like, do you want a liquor store? I was like, let me talk to my partners. I talked to one of my partners. Do a lot of business here too. And like he flips, he wholesales, he does everything here. And I'm like, hey, do you want a liquor store? You know someone that wants a liquor store? Yeah, he's like, I got a liquor store buyer. Let's do it. So like now we're gonna do this liquor store deal. And I'm like, cool, see? Boom, done.
Yeah, it's very specific too, to like have somebody ready to go is like, you know, it's nice, but it's kind of random too at the same time.
Yeah, it was super random because we don't come across a lot of commercial stuff, right?
Mhm.
And so when was talking to him, I was like, this is gonna sound weird, but there's an off-market liquor store. She's owned it for 10 years. Do you want it or do you know someone that wants it? And he has a specific guy that buys liquor stores. And I was like, that's random. That's cool. Let's do this deal.
Yeah.
And it's really that easy, you know?
Mhm.
And just connecting with people doing deals. And then another thing, just talking about that is like having the mindset of collaboration over competition. Like
Mhm.
it's way better to collaborate on deals and get them done and take like half of a paycheck of an assignment fee than to try to do it yourself and get the whole thing. Like
Yep. Or
it's
nothing if it falls through.
honestly, you'll probably end up making nothing. Yeah.
You might learn a lot, but you won't make anything. But at least if you get it done and you only make half of it, you've learned something and you made a little bit of money, which is, who doesn't
Right.
want to earn a little bit of
And
money?
you built a stronger relationship, when you
Mhm.
do a deal with someone, right?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. I mean, you talk about how you paid that agent 10 grand and, no agent's going to get 10 grand on a $150,000 house sale right now. Who's the first person that agent's going to think of when they have another opportunity because you treated them well? That collaboration of competition. Yeah, you maybe made 5, 6, 7 grand less than you would have normally, but that's a long-term investment with them.
Exactly. Yep, exactly. And that deal is one where like we close in like 7 days.
Yeah, speed's
So,
key sometimes.
yeah.
So you made the leap from W-2 engineering into full-time real estate, right? Obviously, you had been doing real estate. You learned a bunch as you went through it. So you didn't just kind of like go from one thing completely to the other. What gave you the confidence, the courage to finally make that leap?
Yeah. So in terms of confidence, it was closing deals before I actually made the leap, right?
Mhm.
Like I proved that I could do it. I proved I can close deals and make money in real estate, right? That's one. Two was also the fact that like anything that I have tried and like given it my all, I've succeeded at. Like that's another thing. And it's not like it's an overnight success. It's more of like I'm just reluctantly persistent and I will never quit. Like that's just something I know about myself, right?
Mhm.
Like if I know like if I say I'm gonna do this, I'm gonna achieve this, like it's just gonna happen. Now the timeline it happens may not be what I want, but eventually it's gonna happen, you
Mhm.
know. So that was another thing, was just like, hey, if I do this full time, I know what to do. And then it's just repeat that day after day and then grow the business from there.
Mhm.
And it comes down to, I mean, mindset really, like having the mental fortitude and the discipline to just do it every day, especially like when you're getting beat up, when your bank account's getting low, you're like, you know, that engineering job was really cushy. I made quite a bit of money. It's like maybe I should go back to that, you know? Like I still kind of have that thought sometimes, like, oh, I could just go back and like chill and like that job was like so easy compared to what I'm doing now. Like there's like no stress in that engineering job, you know? Like and like we were like in hospitals and stuff sometimes. So like high stress situations from like, oh, that wasn't even that bad. So but it's just like every single day just reigniting the drive to just get after it and know that your future goals are not going to happen at a W-2, right?
Mhm.
And I think you mentioned this too, like the salary is the drug they give you to forget your dreams.
Mhm.
So yeah, I could go back, get a nice comfy salary in the engineering field and achieve nothing. Like,
Mm-hmm.
that sounds absolutely terrible to me.
Yeah, for sure.
No.
So what got you through those mindset challenges, right? You said get up and reignite it. What did you do to reignite it every day? Is it remembering those goals, or, vision? What got you through the mindset challenges and those hurdles?
Yeah, so I mean, strength training really. Like, every single morning I go to the gym. Like, I don't think I've missed a single day.
Mm-hmm.
Besides being sick. Like, I don't go to the gym when I'm sick because I don't want to
Mm-hmm.
get others sick, and also I don't want to be blowing my nose after every set. um, but other than that, I've never missed a day. Even when, like, our daughter was born, I went to the gym during the hospital day. You can ask my wife. That is 100% true. And so that building up that consistency and that discipline to go to the gym every morning, it's not like every morning I'm fired up to go lift, I'm like, yes, let's go. I'm super fired up. I got 2 scoops of pre-workout, man, like 500 milligrams of caffeine. I'm going to squat until my quad burst and blood pours out. I don't know. It's not like that. I mean, every now and then you have those days and it's really fun.
Yeah.
But there's also some days where, like, you're like, oh man, it's cold out. It's really warm in here. Maybe I just go back to sleep. I'm really pretty tired. But I've never given in. So I think it's just each morning starting off the day with a workout, and a vigorous workout, right? And then after that, like, you're ready to go. And no matter what happens that day, even if, like, oh man, really dropped the ball on that lead, that conversation was pretty bad. Like, oh, I should have said this in negotiations, but I didn't think of that.
Mm-hmm.
You still went to the gym and crushed it, right? And so that's a huge win for me every morning. And so that flips the switch for me every single day to kind of revamp and get going on business.
Mm-hmm.
Um, so everything kind of comes back down to strength training and lifting weights and all that.
Yeah, and stacking the wins early. When I had Jesse on a couple episodes ago, he talked about he likes to stack those wins early, right? Get up, make your bed. Like it's a small win, but it's it makes you feel better. And then he goes to the gym too, first thing in the morning, and that just puts you on a high note from the beginning. Like, if you got nothing else done, all right, I got up. My room is neat, and physically I feel great. And I go to the gym consistently. I've never had a time where after the workout I've like regretted going, right? You always feel better when you're done, no matter,
Right.
even if it was a bad session, right? Maybe you had
Yeah.
a lifting session and it didn't go well, right? I still feel better after because I sweated, I feel good, like blood's flowing, everything's good. I'm a little tired, but it's like a good tired.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, stacking the wins is huge. Like, even the little things, like, oh, first thing you do when you get up, what do? Just drink a bunch of water.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just a simple task like that. There's a win, and then you just add a little bit on top of that.
Yeah, that fuels the motivation's not always there, but it fuels the energy. It fuels the momentum for the day. And once you start doing things, that's when you start accomplishing things and keep rolling, right? It's like, oh, when I think about I have to clean the whole house, all right, well, let's just start with just cleaning the counters of the kitchen. And then once you're started, it's fine. Like, once that ball is rolling, you feel good, you're in the groove of it, that energy's up, and that helps just keep things going, especially on those days like you mentioned where it's just like, am I doing the right thing? This isn't working, or I had a bad call or a bad lifting session. It's like, but I'm still doing it, and I feel good about just the fact that I can continue to do it.
Yeah, consistency beats talent every time.
Mm-hmm. And that's why a lot of people, that's why I started this podcast, because the people who are crushing it in business and real estate, maybe they want to make that jump into health and fitness and kind of improving that physical, mental, ability. And they build a lot of the great habits that they need in business to be successful, the consistency, the mindset, and all that. And that just translates really well over to the health and fitness. So people who are looking to make that jump from real estate or business can take what they've learned from that and just plug it right in. A lot of business people are super successful when they make that jump. And I think the same can go the other way. Someone who's really got a good foundation, health, fitness, they've been working out, they've played sports, they've built those same habits that they need in business. They just need to kind of apply those same mindsets, those same habits, consistency, goals, vision, and they can be just as successful in business as long as they kind of take those same fundamentals between the two. So that's why I like talking to people who are really successful in both and really like both, because it's basically the same thing. One's a business task and one is a health and fitness task. Like they're just the same foundations.
Absolutely. I think they kind of go hand in hand too. Like, Bedros Keuilian talks about this, but that entrepreneurship is a sport, and you got to treat it like a sport, right? So it's like what you're eating affects your mood too, and like how you're feeling throughout the day, and like how sharp you are, right? And like how quick you make decisions, how lethargic you feel, right?
Yep.
And then also like strength training, how you feel, how you look, right? Like I like my goal is to look like a freaking Super Saiyan, right? Like, and then like when I walk in the room, be like, yeah, you kind of know, and you have that confidence right away when you are super fit, right? It's hard not to, because you walk in, you're fit. One, it just shows you have discipline and dedication, right? You can't buy a healthy, good body. It's not, there's one thing you can't buy, right? It has to be earned. And so that really separates people, and you know that they're like real, right? When they're fit, and they worked at it, and they just chiseled it day after day after day. Because it doesn't happen overnight, right? And so that also leads to like when I walk in a room, I can go up to anyone and shake their hand, like, "Hey, my name's Luke. This is what I do. This is like what I'm doing." But I'm not interested in that. Like, tell me about yourself. Like, what do you do? What are you working on? How can I help you? And I'm really good buddies with a multifamily syndicator, because I did that. And he's like, "Yeah, I'm really trying to like get into working out." And I wrote him like a workout program, right? Like 3 days a week, just strength training, pretty simple. Each week is different rep ranges and all this, and he loves it. And so like just building that relationship with him, like, so if I have a multifamily deal and like North Carolina, Arizona, and like any of these places, he's like, "Here, bring it to me. Like, let's do this deal. Let's syndicate the money and close like 100-unit deal, like, right?" So it's pretty sick. And that just came from asking, what can I help you with? And it just happened to be fitness, where I'm like, okay, this is kind of my bread and butter here. Let me help you.
Yeah. And, it's like you said, it's the consistency, and people can see that you can't fake it, right? You have to, like, your body shows it, and it took time to get there. And, making those connections even at the gym, right? So I go to a CrossFit gym, and that's, big class, group class stuff. And I coach there too. So, obviously people know me as like a coach there, but now that I've been talking about what I've been doing in real estate and trying to be more vocal about that, I have people who are coming up to me asking me about what I'm doing, right? And that's not the intention, right? I'm helping them because I enjoy helping them. I want them to get fitter. I want to teach them and all that stuff. But, I'm doing these other things too. But they realize that I'm looking just to help in fitness. I obviously know what I'm doing. I've been doing it for a while. I have that consistency. And now that I'm delving into this other area, they trust me on that I'm going to accomplish whatever I want, right? You talked about earlier where it's like, I've just kind of always know once I set my goal on something that I'm going to hit it. I'm just going to be consistent with it until I reach what it is. And it might take longer, but I'm going to get there. So having just that extra area of your life that you can feel good about and help other people with that they might be lacking. It's one that's easy to lack nowadays, is eating well and going to the gym consistently is super beneficial from both a business standpoint, a personal standpoint, and, like just your own health and fitness standpoint. So so you talked about earlier about possibly getting into exercise science. Tell me a little bit about your journey being interested in that. Like, when did you start working out? How did you get into it? And what was the journey through to like where you are now on the health and fitness side?
Yeah. So I started lifting weights in 7th grade. So it was the summer from 7th grade to 8th grade is when I started lifting weights. Because they had a summer weightlifting program at the middle school, and it wasn't too far from my house, so I could bike there with my buddy Matt. He probably won't watch this, but so we'd bike there every morning, and like our coach, he probably won't watch this. I'll shout him out. Mr. Kelly he was fantastic, right? And so like he like had printed out sheets, is like, this is what we're lifting today, this is what we're gonna do, and then like after end of each lift, it was either a distance run or like a sprint or something like that. If it was a leg day, we usually had a distance run, and at the end of it, with the upper body day, we usually ran sprints or hill sprints or something like that. At first I hated it because like I couldn't bench the bar. Like I had to use the women's bar to even bench press. I'm like, this is embarrassing. This sucks. Like, I'm like, gosh, I
Uh-huh.
don't even like going. Like the only thing I like doing is like pull-ups because I was freaking light and I could actually do them. Um, but just like kept going, right? And then by the end of the summer, I could bench. I mean, it's not a lot of weight. It doesn't it's not like it's a lot of weight to me now, but like 55, 65 pounds. I mean, I could
Mhm.
at least use the bar and put like a 10 on each side. It's like, yes, getting somewhere. And then that just kind of progressed from there. So then did that again the next summer. And once you get into high school, you're doing like played football and baseball. And so we had like winter weightlifting and summer weightlifting. We lifted in the football season too. And then I remember like roughly sophomore year, I actually kind of started to see some more results of like, oh, like I'm able to bench more weight. I'm able to throw harder and farther now. Like it can run faster now. Like this is pretty cool.
Mhm.
And once you see a little bit of success, like in that, you become obsessed. Like, oh,
Mhm.
how like where can I bring this to? Like, oh, I can finally bench one plate. This is awesome. Okay, and then the next milestone was okay, I can warm up with one plate. This is awesome. And then it's like, oh, I benched 225. Oh, this is great. Now it's 315. And then it's like, okay, like now I'm like Goku. Right.
Yep.
But it just becomes from when you see that little bit inch of success, you get so obsessed. I mean, this is how I am. Like I see something work, I just become obsessed. Like you
Mhm.
do your first deal, oh, you're obsessed. All right, now
Mhm.
build this into $1 million business because you did it one time, you saw the improvement. Now build it to $1 million. And that's how it was with lifting. I saw the little bit of success and saw what it could do. And I just kind of took off with it, right? And so I didn't stop lifting, lifted all the way through college. I mean, go ups and downs with like injuries and stuff, right?
Sure.
Like everyone. But never that was it. I started in middle school and never looked back.
Yeah, so I mean, you talked about too, you know, you hit one milestone and then the next and then the next, and I know that I was kind of the same way where I hit the weight and then I kind of just move on to move that goalpost, keep moving that goalpost, which is great, right? It keeps pushing you out of your comfort zone, it keeps making you grow. But one thing I struggle with, and I'm curious to see your thoughts on it, is celebrating those wins, right? Maybe you had a goal to do 135 and then you hit that, right? Do you celebrate the win there? Or do you just automatically move forward? I struggled with that. And if you do, like, how do you celebrate? Do you just take that moment and kind of take it in? Or like, what do you do to celebrate the wins, the accomplishments that you achieve, whether it is hitting a certain weight or closing that deal or hitting that dollar figure per month in the business?
Yeah, I think it's important, but it's also something I still struggle with, honestly, right? Because being very driven, like you are yourself, you're like, okay, I expected to hit that. Now I expect to hit even more, right? And like I'm thankful that my wife calls me out on this sometimes, like, hey, like just be happy sometimes that you accomplished this, right? Like you did a deal. That's really something to be excited about.
Mhm.
Most people that get into real estate like don't even do a deal, or most people talk about doing something and never actually do anything,
Mhm.
right? So just the fact that you started something, like you should feel good about that, right? So it's something I'm trying to get better at. Now, in terms of like lifting when I hit a goal, it's more of like I'm gonna take a picture and send it to my friend. Look, I just hit this, and then the celebration, like
Yeah.
and like the gym culture is like, oh, you're small, like I could do that. You like kind of like the backwards compliments, but like that like it's a big weight, it's a good weight.
Mhm.
Um, but I just got done recently with the Gap in the Game, that book. So that one's really good. And talking about kind of what we're discussing here is celebrating those wins and not getting stuck in like, um, what is it? The gap part, like how
Mhm.
far you still have to go, right?
Yep.
Instead of looking of like, where have you been and where are you now? And like, look at what you've accomplished. Like, it's good to celebrate that too. Um, so in terms of celebrate, I don't know. never really celebrated anything.
Yeah.
Like it was like what what people think of like celebration. I don't go get like a steak dinner or something.
Mhm.
Maybe I should start that. Maybe every time I PR, I just go get a steak dinner.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
why not?
Yeah.
I
But
think it'd be kind
yeah, I think for Peyton, well, like for lifting and all that stuff, it sounds like your celebration is just like, hey, bro, look what I did. Like, and that's awesome. Like, that's
yeah.
sometimes that's good enough, right? Not necessarily saying that you need to, but I struggle with it the same way. It's like, all right, like, great, that's fine, but like, look at this person. They're closing 2 deals a month, or they closed 2 deals last month. That gap in the game thing. I was just talking to somebody about that book, and it's super important, especially when you're getting started in something or you hit that first milestone, business or fitness, of like, yeah, that's great, but look at where I still want to go. And just
Mhm.
remembering you need to measure backwards to where you were, because sometimes you don't even realize how far you've come in 1 month, 6 months, a year.
Yeah, exactly. And it's also try not to do this, but like comparing yourself to others, like, and
Mm-hmm.
they're just like, oh, like I'm really good friends with Jonah. Just shout out to Jonah Corchin, who's closing 100, like 6 figures a month, wholesaling, right? And doing other business stuff, right? And I'm like, see, like, oh, why aren't I doing that? Like, I know what to do. Why aren't I
Mm-hmm.
doing it? Why aren't I at that level yet? But it's also like, well, if someone's just lifting, like goes to the gym and looks at me like, oh, why can't I bench that much? Or like, why can't I squat that much? It's like, well, I've been doing this for what, 15 years, a little over 15 years, like, right? So it's kind of the same thing, when you kind of think of it in that aspect of things. The thief, or comparison is the thief of joy, I think
Mm-hmm.
is what it's called, or how the
Yep.
saying goes. Yeah, it's easier said than done, right? Like, as everything is.
Yeah. Yeah, for sure. Again, you talked about at the beginning, mindset, right? It's that, right? It's whether you're struggling with your own internal struggles or externals, where you're comparing yourself to something else, which I guess in a way is an internal struggle, but still, like, it all comes down to mindset of pushing through health and fitness, working out, and then real estate, business, whatever that is, right? There's still the same mindset struggles. Am I good enough? Is what it comes down to a lot of the time.
Mhm.
And
Yeah.
so, when getting started, obviously you kind of jumped in with some friends and middle school, and it kind of just became your identity. But and you've helped your one friend with working out and programming him a little bit of stuff. What would be your tip for somebody who's looking to get started, whether they haven't done any exercise or sports in just a long time, or they starting from ground zero? Like, what's your number one tip to give to somebody who's looking to get started in health and fitness?
Yeah. So my number one tip would to be just show up to the gym, right? Find a gym close to you, show up at the same time every single day.
Mm-hmm.
Because the thing is, like, when you go to at the same time, you're gonna meet the other people there just naturally. Like, you're there
Mm-hmm.
at the same time, you see them every day. Eventually, you're gonna introduce yourself, or they're gonna say hi. It's just gonna happen. If it's me, it's day one. I see someone new, I say hi because that's just who I am. And I'm like, hey, I do real estate. Are you looking to make double-digit returns? Like, it's just
Yep.
like, and it's like, oh, I could use the spot too, by the way. Anyway, I would say go to the gym at the same time every single day. And I would say, I'm super biased, but do it in the morning. Like,
Mm-hmm.
because stuff comes up in the day and it's a lot easier to make excuses as the day goes on. So I would say, right when you get up, drink water, drive to the gym. Boom, done. First step. Second step, get to the gym, lift weights. Now that you're there,
Mm-hmm.
lift weights. And I am a very big component of the best. If you're going to pick one form of exercise, it's resistance training, like
Yep.
building muscle mass, because muscle mass leads to, one, it balances hormones, because like when you're lifting weights, your body has to grow muscle, and to grow muscle, your body and your hormones have to be balanced to optimize that growth, right? So it'll just naturally balance your hormones, which will affect your mood and improve it, right? And there's a ton of studies about like longevity and stuff, about like how much muscle mass you have
Mm-hmm.
growing up, and like just the like your lifestyle, like as you age, is just so much better. It's nuts. So I would say resistance training is by far the number one thing to do. Even if you're trying to lose weight, resistance train. Like, it doesn't matter. Like, you're going to burn 400 calories resistance training and running on elliptical. It'll burn the same amount of pretty darn close, right? So a big component of just resistance training. And then I mean, if it's in your budget and like you're super new, find a coach, like hire the trainer, like find a coach, hire the trainer, tell them what you're looking to do, and your goals, and like they'll guide you through it, right? Same thing with business. Like, big component of finding mentorships, right? Like, me and you are both in mentorships, right? That we paid for, and like a good amount of money for,
Yep.
but well worth it.
Mhm.
So the same thing with coaching, right? Or find the big guy in the gym and ask for some tips. Like, the biggest guy in the gym is always the nicest. Like, it's just the way it is. Like, you
Uh-huh.
know, just don't interrupt a set. Like, don't do that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
But if in between sets, you can talk to him,
Mhm.
and so get coaching on what you're trying to go, and they'll teach you form first and foremost, and then you just build up from there. And then just same time every day, you'll start adding weight. And once you start seeing results, you're gonna become obsessed. And once you're obsessed, then it's like, okay, how can I really optimize this? Now let's start looking at diet, right?
Mhm.
So I'd say, like, straight up, like, just cut out the pop to start and don't worry about any other diet. Just go resistance train. And then once you become obsessed and you see results, you'll figure out, okay, how can I optimize this? Okay, now go back to the diet and be like, how can I really optimize this?
Mhm.
Uh, and then, I mean, it sounds simple, but I mean, it takes work, but it's really that simple.
Yeah, and I like what you said too. Get to the gym first, build that habit, build that momentum, feel good about that because that's just going to want you to keep going back and then focus on diet. If you try to do both of them, you might get way overwhelmed and not want to do either. So I like that
Yeah.
you broke them up. And maybe somebody wants to start with diet first. That's totally cool too. But I agree. Getting in the gym first, especially early in the morning, that's going to be your best bet. But just focusing on one thing that's going to make the biggest impact. And the two things that make the biggest impact is exercise and diet. Pick one and hit those consistently, and then go to
Hmm.
the other.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Yeah. It's same with real estate, right? Oh, like, I'm gonna do multifamily. I'm gonna flip houses. I'm gonna own an Airbnb. I'm gonna do all of this,
Mhm.
and then you don't do anything because it's too many things in the air.
Yeah, and we've all been
I
there, right?
tried it. I
Yep.
did. Like, I was like, so I mean, I own a property in Florida, right? But I was like, oh, I'm also going to do multifamily because, like, that's where all the money is. Oh, I made balloons. um, and then I was like, oh, I want long-term rentals too. Subject to is super cool because you don't need to put 20% down or 10. Like, you can get it for free.
Hmm.
Or for seller finance and all these things. Oh, like, self-storage sounds kind of interesting. That's like super low maintenance and use cash flow stuff. Um, and then it's like I found wholesaling out after all those, and I was like, I'm gonna do wholesaling too. And then I got nowhere.
Hmm.
Right? It was like 2 years of turning wheels and going zero, not going anywhere. So, yeah, picking one thing, sticking to it.
Yeah, and you mentioned getting a coach too that will help you guide you in not doing all those things at one time. And that's whether it's a business coach, right? Okay, here's where you're at, here's what you're doing. Is this working? Is it not working? And same thing with health and fitness, right? It doesn't matter what diet you use, it's whatever one you can stick with. It doesn't matter what workout program you can do, it's whatever you're gonna stick with. But if you don't know where to start, you either need to just choose one or find somebody to help guide you through that process because it's not gonna be easy. And sometimes you just need a little support and direction, and that makes the biggest difference.
Yeah, it's
So,
huge.
what just to kind of round everything out, goals, for you upcoming, whether fitness goals, business goals, like what are you hoping to hit by the end of the year? What are you working towards now?
Yeah. So for fitness goals, it's to get back on track with consistently eating, or the diet, right? And consistently eating the same thing. Because I can eat the same thing every other day. Like, it doesn't bother me. So it's getting more consistent with that, right? Like, things get super busy, and like, I still eat good enough, right? Like, I've done it and I've tracked stuff long enough where I can kind of eyeball stuff. I'm like, okay, this that. As long as I hit my protein intake, I'm like, okay, That's all I care about right
Yeah,
now. So it's like to get back into that, that habit of really tracking what I'm eating, um, getting like more like blood work done to see how I can optimize everything. Right. It's also fun just being a nerd for yourself. Like, how can I like increase testosterone like by a
Mhm.
hundred,
Yeah,
something
yeah.
like that. And then like I'm I'm super close to being able to bench 3 plates, right? The 315 milestone, super close to that. So I'm chasing after that right now.
Mhm.
I'm at about 300, right? It depends how much pre-workout I have. Like it varies between 290, 300, and how much creatine I'm taking at the time.
Mhm.
Anyway, and so I'm approaching 3 plates on bench, and so I'm after that for fitness goals. In terms of business goals, so in 2025, the plan is to be pulling in 100K in assignment fees each month, and then buying at least one flip each month. And then with those flips, is to start a fund for investing, right? Like a fund to fund my own flips or to
Mhm.
fund other people's flips that I assign to them. Because when you're hosting, you already underwrote the deal. Like, it's a deal. So I want to be able to just lend on those deals as well and make more money
Mhm.
because already underwrote the deal. I know it's good. Here's the money for it. Boom, done. And so it's going to be like hopefully a one-stop shop for like just flipping properties. Is like, here's the deal, here's the money, have at it.
Yeah.
And
Just
then um get into and then like 2 years after like I grow those relationships with private money lenders, then it's to get into multifamily, right? And
mm,
that's either like small multifamily or like the pad splits in Atlanta and around Atlanta area. For more of the buy and hold, but I'll always be wholesaling and like flipping and stuff because I really like the bigger checks right now.
yep.
And
Yeah.
then also and start hiring out a team. Um I'm hoping by end of quarter 3 to have my first hire.
Mm.
Um, and that whether that's an admin or an acquisitions manager, I'm not sure yet. It's just a matter of like acquisitions manager, like it takes a certain kind of person, you know.
Yeah.
They're harder to find.
Mhm.
But those are the business goals right now.
Nice. Awesome. I love that. And it's clear, right? You have not only just like this quarter, but you have next year and the following year, like that long term vision too, to kind of help drive things forward each and every day when you don't feel like doing it and showing up. Um, so, where can people reach out, find out more about you, and where you want to point them? If you're in Minnesota and have an old property you want to get rid of, where can they reach out and find information on you?
Yeah, so my Instagram is just my name, Luke Nietfeld with no space. And my cell phone number is 244 or here, I'm just gonna save it right here. There's my cell phone number. 763-244-6301 is my cell phone number. Yeah, if you have deals in Minnesota, definitely send them to me. If you have deals in Atlanta, also send those to me. If you have deals in Tampa, you can send those to me and I will just send them to someone else.
Awesome. I love it, man. Well, I appreciate you hopping on. It's been great chatting with you about business, real estate, health, fitness, all that stuff that we both love. So keep rocking it. I can't wait to watch you grow and hit those goals. And once again, thank you so much for popping on today.
Yeah, thank you so much for the invite, Zach. It was fun. We're gonna have to connect more on buying some houses together.
Yeah, I'd love to do some deals together. That's the ultimate goal,
Absolutely.
right? Collaboration over competition.
Absolutely.
Perfect. Thanks, man.
Yep. Bye.